For a long time, my planche has been extremely messy. It was a very rough draft. I was playing around with it. I was mainly just working on my unspecific strength and just trying to force it into this technically demanding skill. And it's only recently where I've been implementing a bit more resistance band work, realizing the necessity of form, and recognizing that protraction and the engagement of your back muscles is an essential part, or at least a very important factor that really determines the quality of your planche. And one thing I did want to consider is which groups of your back are really engaged. In my experience, I've always found that it was my lats and a bit of my serratus anterior, which isn't really part of your back, but those were the regions that I experienced most of my fatigue. After every single planche session I've had, I don't really feel it in my shoulders. I only feel it in the muscles that are responsible for your pull movements. So these are your back, my biceps, and mainly my lats. The lats really come down just from how hard I am protracting for every single set I'm doing. With every single isometric hold, with all my dynamic bent arm work, I'm always protracting, depressing my scapula. And it's specifically the depression of my scapula that really contracts that lat, and I get crazy DOMs from this. Now, another thing I wanted to consider is how effective do your trapezius muscles affect your planche? And this is something that a person has commented on my channel. His name is Leif Leonhard, and he's mentioned quite often that your trapezius muscles is one of the most important points of your planche. And this is something that I found rather interesting because he mentioned that it was from, I think, Coach Dennis. He's a really good planche. He holds the planche really well, and it's interesting to hear that this muscle group that I've never experienced any contraction or any stimulus in is considered to be such an effective and important muscle group for the planche. And when I consider this, it seems to me that the planche is so individualized in terms of how the individual feels or at least understands it. And for me, I guess there is a sheer spectrum of the specificity and unspecific strength demand. For the very strong but very inexperienced person, in terms of the planche, they may actually be able to hold the planche without the understanding or the neurological demand that comes with long terms, years of just constantly grinding and just ingraining the planche understanding. Therefore, they will compensate a lot more by leaning a lot more. And I guess when you consider it, the protraction of your scapula is what may potentially allow for you to, not lean as much. I don't really understand why this is the case. I guess it may have to do with your leverages. If you protract significantly more, it reduces the length of your leverage, hence reduces the force demand of the planche. But I guess it's a bit more of a technical aspect where you better understand the position of the planche. And it's always interesting to realize that when you compare calisthenics with weighted movements, it's a bit, the strategies that we try and implement from the traditional weights towards calisthenics need to be narrowed and very specified to the skill demands of of calisthenics in general. What I mean by this is I normally go about my trainings in a push-pull legs split. So my push consists of just planche work, pull is my front level, legs just legs with squats and stuff. And the biggest concern with this program is the large overlap in muscle groups with the push and the pull, because calisthenics is a holistic engagement of your body. You're contracting multiple groups of muscle groups. It's a compound movement, and there's significantly greater demand in overall muscle understanding compared to like a bench press or like a squat. Yes, the bench press requires retraction of your scapula, so a bit of your back muscles, but it mainly engages your chest. But when you are focusing on like planche, you are protracting excessively, you are depressing super hard, and you're constantly in that contracted like point that for me personally, the stimulus is, I guess, like the fatigue I'm feeling is way more specified into my back than my shoulders. I may be considering that with time, I've conditioned myself to the large load demand that I've been putting on my shoulders, so I don't need as much time to recover. And I guess it's only recently when I've been really engaging my back that the reason why my back is feeling so sore is because of that recent change. And this is something that Mantis Calisthenics has mentioned a lot, and why he advocates that the I guess the better alternative to calisthenics is a upper body and a lower body, because there's so much overlap with the pull and the push movements that calisthenics has to offer. And because of this, it's really confusing because the planche focuses on your biceps and your front lever works your triceps. And they're completely two antagonizing muscle groups that contradict the motion of pull and push. So you can't necessarily guarantee establishing planche as solely a solely a push movement, or the front lever as a pull movement. It's interesting to realize that there's so many other specific, I guess like, there's so many like localized muscle groups that are working in all these calisthenics skills and movements. So yeah, it just makes you realize how much more complex calisthenics can be. It's interesting, and I'm really enjoying discovering more and experimenting. So yeah, that's basically it, and I'll finish off here.